is Carrie Butler. It looks like we have a quorum, so I believe we can get started. Um, Mr. Combs, are you ready to?
We are ready.
Okay. You want me to do a countdown to 10 till we go live?
We're ready to go.
But I should count down from 10.
Go ahead and get started.
Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the Lextran Board of Directors August meeting. We are virtual here. We couldn't have a primary physical location. So pursuant to Senate 150 and signed by the governor, we are holding this meeting virtually. So at this point, I will turn it over to our board chair, Mr. Christian Motley, to call to order and perform the roll call. Thank you, Mr. Motley.
Thanks, Carrie. Good morning, everybody. We'll start the meeting with a quick roll call. Adrian Thakur, Rick Chrisman. Rick, you there?
Here, yes.
Amen. Harding Dowell.
Here.
You there? I thought I saw you, Harding.
Yeah, I'm here, Christian.
Peggy Henson, I think is out. Jamie Rogers.
Good morning. Bye.
Hey. And Joe Smith, I think is out. And George Ward.
I'm present.
Hey, George.
Hello.
Quick ask if there's any public comment on agenda items. There are none. We'll move to approval of the July minutes. If you need a second, holler, but if not, we'll take a motion to approve those minutes. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
George. Is there a second?
Jamie Rogers, seconds. Oh.
I think we got a motion from, was that a motion from Rick, a second from George?
I believe so.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. I've got just a quick chair's report. First of all, I want to say, I got my notes here. First of all, I wanted to mention that I got the opportunity to present at the Fayette Alliance Citizens Planning Academy on Tuesday, August 4th. For folks who don't know what the Citizens Planning Academy is, it's a free 4-week program. It educates Fayette County residents on land use planning and the relationship to our community's economic development, environment, quality of life. The topic that day was responsible infrastructure. And I spoke alongside Scott Thompson, who is at LFUCG, and Stan Harvey, who is a planning consultant who's also based here in Lexington. So a couple notes from the board. There was a lot of interest in the Nicholasville project. I spoke a bit about it. Stan spoke a bit about it, and Scott spoke a bit about it. There was interest in Vanpool and learning just more about how to take advantage of that, and just generally the role of improved walkability in public transit and, as a quality of life issue. So we had a really great discussion. Their format was kind of straight presentations, but then these breakout conversations, and they had, I think between 50 and 60, I believe, participants. I wanted to add just a big thank you to Jill and Carrie, who helped to make sure that I was not completely off the rails on my messaging. That's a conversation that Carrie, I believe you participated in before.
Yes, thank you. And credit to Jill. She really helped with this presentation.
That was that was fun. And not just sort of the conversation we had there. There were some follow-up questions that folks sent after. Again, thanks, Jill, for helping us get folks squared away. Lots of interest there. Then a couple of follow-up notes just from our last meeting. We had some questions last month about both CARES Act funding and the headquarters loan project. I've asked the staff to present just a quick report for the September Finance Committee meeting. At that same meeting, there will be the annual audit will also be reviewed. I did a quick check with George just to make sure this was the right sequence. So there'll be a presentation at the Finance Committee meeting. Then we'll have a conversation for the board. And I think it'll be good because it'll give us an opportunity to have that conversation informed by the Finance Committee. So we'll have that before we have that as a full board. Nikki might have mentioned this already, but just a quick note on the CARES Act funds. They are currently being used as reimbursement for operating expenses. So supporting operational expenses and honoring the existing financial commitments. Because we have not seen, we haven't been collecting fares, and we've seen other fare revenue decline due to COVID response to the COVID pandemic. And so I'm thinking about the sequence again. I want to make sure to set expectation. So there's a conversation with the Finance Committee about both CARES Act dollars, the refinancing of the loan on the building, and the audit report. By the time we have a conversation at the board, we'll also be nearing November, December, which, I've talked to Carrie and she's mentioned that'll be, I think she said it to the board as well. By the time we get to at that point in the year, we'll have a good sense of what the local property tax receipts are, which will give us an opportunity to make some really informed decisions about the fiscal year 2021. I know that we talked, when we passed the budget this year, we talked about the potential of making mid-year adjustments. And so I think that there's just a number of items on the slate that we'll be able to take up and really be able to, again, make informed decisions. Is there any questions or conversation about those items?
How close are we to being able to bring in fares again?
Hi, good morning. This is Carrie Butler. What we're working on right now in order to be able to safely collect fares is a driver barrier. And we've mentioned this a few times, so give me just a second. So a driver barrier essentially is a structure or a piece that goes in between the driver and the passengers that provides an additional method of protection for the driver from people collecting fares. And we are working on we're building these in-house as opposed to some of the more, going out for a bid and getting a big structure in place. We felt like, based on feedback from drivers and our staff, this was a good fit for what we were trying to do. Some agencies have continued to collect fare. Some agencies have used even very rudimentary sort of protection, sort of a plastic sheath or kind of a shower curtain. Others have, for other reasons, have installed a more formal structure that goes in to sort of keep the driver in a little box. You may have seen that in some other cities. So we're working on that driver barrier, and you may have, some folks may have even seen the prototype that's been on the bus or on a few buses right now. So once we have those driver barriers installed and we feel like we can safely collect fares, we'll do that. I don't have an exact timeline on that, when those will be done, but we are working on making that happen.
How long have we not been collecting fares?
I believe since March. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe since March. I don't have the exact date on the top of my head right now.
Doesn't that seem to be a long time to be going without getting those barriers put up so we can collect fares?
Sure. One of our challenges with responding to the COVID-19 pandemic was the uncertainty of the duration and the time. In March, we thought that might be a temporary thing, back to business by summer. And as it's continued on, we've realized that we can't continue to not collect fares, but hence why we're moving forward with the driver barrier. So we felt like this was both a cost-effective solution and a way, of course, to keep our drivers as safe as possible.
You cannot give us a date as to when you think that will be finished?
I can't. Hopefully by next board meeting we will have an exact date.
What else do you have to do? I mean, shouldn't that be job one? Getting the barriers up?
Yes, and we are working as diligently as we can to protect the safety of our employees, the safety of our passengers, and continue to do all that we know to do right now to work through this, work through this response.
Carrie, what were the factors in determining whether we would do? Did you say we would create the barriers or build the barriers internally rather than bid out? Is that right?
Yes, and I realize this is maybe a little bit frustrating for some of the board members, and if I thought I could pull up an image that might help, because I'm sort of struggling to sort of capture what different types of driver barriers or protections look like. There are some that are
Fred, are you still there? We lost Carrie.
Yes, I'm here. Give us 1 second. We'll get her back up.
Okay. You'll bear with us a sec. The next item is taking a look at the website. I'm gonna pause because I think we want the answer that Carrie was given.
So give Carrie 1 second. She's going to drop off the call and call back in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Christian, I guess this gets to Rick's larger question. If there were barriers, would we then be starting to accept fares, or is that the only kind of tipping point on taking fares and not taking fares?
Yeah. Go ahead, Carrie.
Hi, I'm back. I was giving this amazing description of driver barriers, and then I heard Mr. Motley say, well, we've lost her. So I logged back in, and I won't bore the public or our board with the day that I have had thus far. So par for the course that my video feed would go down this morning. So
I got to look at the prototype. Would it be wrong? So you were mentioning that there were multiple kinds of barriers that exist.
Yes.
What I saw was almost like I would compare it to the plastic barrier that I've seen at Kroger, except it opens like a door.
Yeah, exactly. There's some that are sort of like a phone booth, and it's almost like you're in a compartment. We talked about those with their drivers. They felt like that's very claustrophobic. It's hard for 8 hours to be in there. There's others that are a bar. Really, these driver barriers were designed to prevent altercations, physical altercations between passengers and drivers. So we wanted to do what we could for, sort of this airborne sort of viral virus protection. So yeah, as you mentioned, Mr. Motley, this is a plexiglass like you see in some of the other retail stores, and it sort of works on a hinge so that a driver pulls it tight to them. People can put their fares in the fare box, and then it keeps sort of people back behind the yellow line on the bus. And then Ms. Rogers, you were asking a question just when I came back on. I heard just the tail end of it. If you could repeat it.
Yeah, so I think the larger question, how we started talking about barriers, is that the tipping point on taking fares, or are there other factors for consideration on when to start to take fares?
That's an excellent question. I think the additional consideration that we might want to take on collecting fares would be the economic status of folks, and if there's something that we wanted to do to extend a no fare or a reduced fare system for a couple of months as we deal with high levels of unemployment and just sort of folks trying to get back. But we knew the driver barrier was going to have a little bit of a lead time, so wanted to move forward on that. And part of the reason why we went with this structure is we felt like this sort of met kind of the best of both worlds. It wasn't too claustrophobic. It did add that protection. So hence our decision to go forward with that.
Are other transit authorities collecting fares now?
There are probably more that are not collecting fares, but yes, there are some that continued to collect fares throughout the pandemic.
And so, Kara, I just wanted to say thank you, because my hypothesis is that there probably were multiple things in the decision tree on when to start taking fares, and just it's helpful to know what else is in the consideration besides barriers, economic status. There's probably a few other things, and that's helpful to know.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, whether or not when we get the barriers up, whether or not we can continue to begin collecting fares, that's a board decision, correct?
Yes.
Is that on the agenda?
It wasn't on the agenda today. We can add it to next month, if so directed.
And so then my only addition, if we add it next month, it would be helpful to maybe know here's what we should be considering besides barriers, economic status, maybe benchmarking, if there are other things in the decision that we should consider.
Great.
And did I understand you that we won't have the barriers up next month, but we might have a date as to when?
Yes, we will have a date as to when they will be up by next month.
Should we, I appreciate this conversation. If there is urgency, I think, it's fine to take this up on the September board meeting. I'm also thinking about just the fact that the Finance Committee is going to meet on a couple of items that month as well, and they may want to have kind of that in front of them. Because what's coming to mind for me is that it's the CARES dollars that are backfilling the revenue right now.
Just to be perfectly clear, CARES Act funds are not a direct replacement for fare revenue. That was part of the federal language. However, as one can imagine, we're losing those revenues. We're getting them back operationally. But just to be perfectly clear, from the federal regulation, it's not a fare reimbursement program. But through the cycle of funding, we're getting it back.
This is how you kept me from going off the rails with Citizens Planning Academy. I just add that as a consideration. If we want to put that on the agenda for the September board meeting, we can. I just think we might have a little bit more information.
Okay.
About the next.
Yeah, Christian, I think if this is something that the Finance Committee can work on is understanding what the financial impact of, sort of whether by month of what is the impact of not not accepting fares, I think would be good to know in terms of making that decision. And what if we have any sort of demographically driven information about our ridership and what levels of unemployment we're seeing among what we understand to be the broad view of the ridership, I think would also be a good data point to have in order to make that decision.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can safely say that not having those barriers up is certainly affecting our income.
Yeah.
And this CARES money can be used to put up barriers, correct?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Any additional questions or notes before we move on? Let's talk about the website.
All right, we'll turn it over to Austin Hughes, who is our marketing coordinator, and he is going to do a overview of the website. I think they're going to be switching over the screens, so cross your fingers that we're able to switch screens to the website. The website went live with this new version back in February, or yeah, and we had intended to, demonstrate this, but had just got caught up with other things. So, hence why it's been live for a while. We're very, very happy with it. And I will now turn it over to Austin Hughes, our marketing coordinator. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. As Carrie mentioned, my name's Austin. I've met most of you, but for those who I haven't, it's nice to meet you virtually. I'm the marketing coordinator, and like Carrie said, we rebranded our website, redesigned it back in February is when it launched. It was part of the overall rebranding efforts that we started a few years back. This was a really big one for us because our website previously was very out of date. It was pretty much it was pretty obsolete. It was very difficult for users to interact with, as well as for us to edit the content and make sure that everything was up to date for the customers. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to kind of just give a quick tour of the website, some of the highlights and that sort of thing. When we launched in February, shortly after, obviously, the pandemic hit, and we had the ability to really make some changes to the website quickly. It was kind of good timing, and in terms of that, we were able to update all the information about the reduced schedules and really communicate clearly all of the changes that were going on with service due to the pandemic. So in terms of timing, it was actually pretty lucky as far as that goes. Our COVID-19 page with all of the schedules on it that we were able to create back in March had received over 13,000 unique page views, which is pretty high for a blog post like that. So we know that people were really getting that information and were easily able to access it. So when we first started redesigning our website, the things that we really wanted to work on were making sure, first and foremost, that it was mobile friendly. We discovered when we were kind of going through the fact-finding process for the website that through our analytics, 3/4 of the users were accessing the website through their phones, which makes sense because most people are out at the bus stop or at the transit center or on the bus even trying to get information. So we really wanted to make sure that it was mobile friendly. So that was really important first and foremost. The second thing was that it was ADA compliant. So we worked with our vendor on that, on making sure that all of the colors were contrasting enough. The whole website is screen reader friendly now, so anyone who's using one of those devices can easily access the information that they need to. And we even have some translate capabilities up here in the corner. We can change the language of the website to any of these languages, which we know that some of our writers utilize, so that's pretty helpful as well. And it also is much more easy for anyone to navigate. The old website had some information that was kind of all over the place, and so it gave us a chance to kind of take an audit of the information that was on the website, correct all the phone numbers, links, the language, and really make sure that the website was consistent with our brand visually, but also from a tone and voice perspective. So now I'm just going to kind of give a quick tour of some of the main features. So the most important feature, of course, is all of the schedule and fare information. So there's a few different ways that you can access that information. One of the more traditional, I guess, ways is to go to the bus routes and schedules page. So you click there, you have a system map up here you can interact with a little bit, and then it has all of the routes below. So if you click on one, you can either download the PDF version of the paper schedule, which a lot of our writers still prefer to use. They're a little bit more familiar with that, so that's there for them. And then you can also click here on maps and schedules, and that will bring up the specific route. So you'll see the route here. If you zoom in, you can see all the bus stops there, the areas it serves, again, the paper schedule, and then all of the time points and their corresponding times. So this feature is actually really important for us as well because we worked with our vendor to make sure that updating this information was going to be seamless. We weren't going to have to go in and manually type in all these times and potentially make errors that way and take up a lot of time. So it's a lot more efficient. We actually use our standardized data format that we use for our app and other things as well that feed all of these times directly into the website. So it's basically just kind of uploading a file and refreshing it on the back end, and then everything is up to date. So it's all correct, and it's much more efficient from my standpoint for actually updating things. So that's one way to get all of your schedule information. The other thing is our trip planner, which this button always lives at the top here for easy access, and it's also under schedules and fares. But the trip planner just opens up into our My Stop Avail screen. So this is the desktop version of the app that we use on the mobile devices. So this kind of just pops up into a new window here. So this way people can find their routes, find their stops, plan their trips, and that sort of thing.
Can you show that? Did you show already the? I'm thinking about the note that we got that said we could see the bus capacity from the My Stop.
Sure. Yeah, that's if you go to My Stop. Let's see. Let's click on one. Yeah, so it's right here. If you click on the bus icon, below all of the information about the time and everything, it tells what the onboard count is there. So looks like that bus currently has 2 people on it at the transit center.
How are we able to get that data if folks are not collecting fare, or how are we getting that?
This is Carrie Butler. It's through the automatic passenger counters, which is the system that counts people getting on board, or on board or off. So as I mentioned last time, there can be. Yeah. Thanks for showing that, Austin.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. So the trip planner we talked about. Then, like I said, we were able to audit sort of all the information that was on the website, able to correct anything that was incorrect. So any information that riders need about how to get to Keeneland, any information specific for UK riders, as well as just the general information about how to ride, how to report lost and found items. All of those are here, so it makes things pretty simple for people to understand our service, what we do, and to access that information. We wanted to keep things really concise with the language and really make sure that people were able to get the information that they wanted to very quickly. So one of the other important features of the website is the Work With Us tab. So this is where we have all of our information about our careers. So anyone who's wanting to apply for a job at Lextran can do so through the website. Gives a little bit of information about working at Lextran, and then has all of our open positions listed below here. So it's pretty easy to get on the website and to quickly apply for a job through there. We also have all of our procurements here on business opportunities. So any RFPs we have out for bid are automatically fed into here through Bonfire, which is the system that our procurement department uses to manage those procurements. Another feature, sorry, I'm going to move this out of the way, is underneath our About tab, we have a few different things here. Of course, we have our Board of Directors page, and this is where our board meetings and committee meetings are. So the public has access to know when all these meetings are scheduled, their times, and then any documents are then uploaded for the public as well. So we have the current fiscal year here, and below we have archived years as well, all the way back currently to 2017. Then underneath our About, something that we added here as well, so people could kind of keep tabs on important projects we're working on, is a latest projects page. So we're able to update this pretty frequently. It's kind of a living page. So anything new that's happening, we're able to add a little information about it so people know some of the things we're working on. And we're also able to indicate when things are completed as well. So one of the other things is, sorry, this keeps getting in the way, is our key pillars. So since this is something we always emphasize, and everything that we work on, we wanted to make sure that it's on our website as well. So we talk about our key pillars here, and we talk about our 3 S's that are super important for everyone that works at Lextran. So we talk about safety, service, schedule. So all of these features are able to pop up and give a little bit of information about why those are important to Lextran, and kind of let everyone know what we're using as sort of our framework for making decisions that we do and doing the things that we do. So the last thing that I'm going to show is in the footer, we have our civil rights page that kind of includes our Title VI information. So that's important to have on any website, but it has everything here, and it has it in all of the crucial languages, so English, Spanish, and Chinese here, and also information about our non-discriminatory service. So those are some of the highlights that I just wanted to show you guys and give you an overview of. Since we've launched the website, we've received a lot of positive feedback from customers through social media or just word of mouth that it's so much easier to use, and I can confirm that it is definitely on your phone as well. So, and we've even had our CSRs have people call in and tell them, you know, the website's so much easier to use, and, you know, thanks for redesigning it and that sort of thing, so we have easier access to information. So overall, it's been really positive from a customer standpoint and from my end as well, as far as managing all of the information on the back end. It's much more seamless, and we're able to do a lot more and do it more efficiently too. So are there any questions about the website or any features anyone wanted to take a peek at?
I have a question. It's George.
Sure.
I was just looking at the mobile version, and there's a link to buy a pass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it allows me to buy a pass. So I guess a couple questions. One, how come we don't say that there are no fares right now? And then two, I was looking at the PayPal fee, and it looks like, you know, for a single ride, the PayPal fee is $1 in addition to the $1 fare. And then on a full day pass, the PayPal fee was $2 on a $3 fare. So I was just curious how that all works.
Hey, Austin, this is Carrie.
Sure.
I'm glad to give an update on that when we talk about fare collection next time. The way that our buy a fare online works is not quite as automated as it would appear to the public. We still have a very hands-on approach on the back end. So a person is getting that email. So they would be notified that they can, you know, they're welcome to buy a pass if they want, but we wouldn't necessarily recommend it at the time. So with regards to the online fare sales, it may look a little more automated than it is, but certainly we are not selling fares and passes with that, and we can get some information on the PayPal and sort of credit card fees when we talk about fare collection next month.
Okay, so I guess my point is you should probably have something on there that states that we're not collecting fares at this time.
Sure. Any other questions?
Austin, I just wanted to say thank you for that point, George. I wanted to say quickly that just the website looks good. Like, it's visually appealing. It's very simple. Like, I've used it for a couple things, including I'm talking with Fed Alliance a couple weeks ago. So it's very, it's easy to get to. I just like the updates.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
So this is Jamie. I also just want to say, one, it looks really good, and two, it goes to our strategic plan of trying to make citizen-centric, user-friendly, kind of that automated experience that people are getting used to and expect. And I really appreciated your comment that 3/4 of the users are using it on your phone. So you guys are really building this to be mobile-centric. Just how people now expect to be able to interact with government services is through their phone. So I did that comment. And then I also wanted to highlight something you only briefly talked about, but is also really important, but that your procurement page is very transparent. And so that is a huge deal on being able to get more people to bid on products, as well as having small minority businesses be able to get online and easily see how to bid on. So that's a huge accomplishment. And then the hiring is very transparent. The people can get on, see what positions are open. Just nationally, that's a really big conversation around equity and being very transparent and making it so that people can find that information. So I really appreciate Austin and Carrie and everyone that has thoughtfully worked on this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts here? Thanks, Austin.
Yeah, no problem.
You ready for the performance report?
Yes, I believe we will switch the screens. And Ms. Barnett, if you are ready for the monthly performance report for July, we're sharing the content right now. Right, we've got the screen up and just hopefully, oh, there she is. All right, great. Take it away, Ms. Barnett. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you. I believe now that I have screen control, so I will operate this as best I can. Also want to echo Ms. Rogers' sentiments about Austin's thoughtfulness with the website. He really managed this project start to finish and was able to be very thoughtful about our website and the information that we're trying to communicate to the public, the ways in which the public uses it. You know, often we get busy and we have to put the information out there, but he was able to be very thoughtful in getting it out there in a streamlined way and an effective way. And I very much appreciate that. Our website does look great. As you said, Mr. Motley, very, very pleased with it. This went exceptionally well. So switching gears, this is the presentation of the Lextran monthly performance report, highlights our performance in the month of July. Thank you to Mr. Combs for presenting last month in my absence. As always, we serve people and our community with mobility solutions, our mission statement, which we are very proud of. This was also part of that overall rebranding effort that Mr. Hughes mentioned in coordination with the website. We have some highlights for the month of July. Early in the month of July, we released our Healthy on Board plan and started requiring facial coverings for passengers in conjunction with Governor Beshear's mandate to do that. When we released our Healthy on Board plan on July 8th, I think our target date for requiring the facial coverings was actually just a few days after, or we had planned to do it a few days after what the governor actually mandated. So we ended up bumping that up just a little bit. Also in July, we reinstated service and trips on 5 of our routes, 5 of our fixed routes, providing regular weekday service. We did that to address some capacity issues that we were having and allow folks to have some better trip planning capabilities.
Jill, how's the compliance on wearing the mask, and how do we handle it if somebody refuses to do it?
We don't have a lot of refusals, of outright refusals. That there are some folks who will state a medical exemption or some reason that they cannot, and our transportation supervisors are generally the folks that get involved. They do a very good job of handling that. In some cases, they have provided individual rides to people if absolutely necessary. Overall, compliance is pretty good. I had a little bit of maybe a bumpy start, but we did make some masks available for folks who may not have had them, because from the time that the mandate was announced to the time that they needed it to ride was a very quick turnaround. And for some of our folks, they may not have been able to get that mask in hand. Fortunately, we had some on order because we had planned for this. And we were able to kind of do a quick push to make some of those available. So we've had a pretty good response, and you'll see a little bit of that. I've highlighted some community support about the masks a little bit later in this presentation. Later on in the month of July, it was near the end, we resumed some limited service on our Route 14 Blue-White, which serves a large portion of the University of Kentucky campus. And we really continued our focus on COVID in terms of monitoring both internally and externally. As you know, there's something that changes almost daily. monitored our response, and that is, both the immediate response and things we have planned for the coming weeks. I wanted to highlight some of our fixed route system ridership in the month of July. Similarly to what we have seen over the last few months, we are down significantly compared to last year. However, we are slightly trending up little by little. We expect that response to continue. Obviously, in this month, August, with students returning, I won't say many students returning because it's hard to know what that impact will look like. But as students return to UK, as students return to Transy, or just return to Lexington to take their online classes, if that is their situation, we expect that ridership number to perhaps grow a little more quickly than it has been over the last couple of months. We're seeing a similar increase on the paratransit side of our ridership, slowly ticking up, still down dramatically compared to where we were last year. And this is our percentage change relative to the monthly average when it comes to our ridership for fixed route and paratransit.
Are fees being collected for paratransit?
I'm sorry, can you ask that question one more time?
Are fees being collected for paratransit?
No, if there's no fare on fixed route, there cannot be a fare on paratransit either. My apologies for the screen. I have somehow managed to scroll through like 3 or 4 slides at once. So sorry about that. Another look at our ridership, our system productivity. This is our ridership just presented slightly differently. Our total numbers for overall throughout the system, weekdays, Saturdays. We did offer service on the 4th of July. That service was modified. Typically on a holiday, we offer Sunday service, so Sunday level service. So we are still providing trips to the folks that need it. It is more limited. On our safety side, excuse me, we continue to do well. We had 29 days with no preventable accidents, so almost an entire month. We did well there, and we had 1.55 preventable accidents per 100,000 miles. Okay. On our maintenance side, our maintenance team completed 100% of their scheduled preventive maintenance inspections on our revenue vehicles in the month of July for a total of 42. As I have mentioned at some points in the past, the percentage we try to shoot for 100 obviously every month, but the individual number does change from month to month, and that is based on timing of when the mileage hits. So I think last month it was about 33, and this month it's 42. If you have wondered, I know we had some newer board members, if you have wondered why that particular number fluctuates from month to month. Also throughout the month of July, our maintenance team worked hard on some vehicle preparations, preparing for the return of some of the UK service, some of our additional service, our additional trips with our service reinstatement, and just the typical cleaning and maintenance that they have been doing of our vehicles throughout this pandemic. Our complaints regarding late or early buses were trending down, and our on-time performance gradually ticked up, so we were very pleased to see that. Our Text for Next system was used nearly 2,000 times in the month of July, and as a reminder, the Text for Next system is basically where an individual would use their cell phone and compose a text message to the number 321123 and enter their bus stop ID number and receive a message back very promptly with the next bus departure time. So folks are using that. I wanted to share some feedback that we had received from some of our customers regarding the Text for Next feature, as well as the in-app onboard passenger counts. We have some good feedback here that we got from folks on our social media. So she says, before the app was created, it was the best way for me to find out when the next bus was coming. That is speaking of the text for next feature. And another passenger says, love that you can now see how many riders are on the bus while using the app. So that is proving to help people with their trip planning, along with some of those extra trips that we have added back in with our service reinstatement. So I was looking for another slide that I have either scrolled past or omitted by mistake. But it was feedback about our masks. And Mr. Ward, I shared that with you earlier, so I apologize. I have inadvertently omitted that slide, it would appear. But as with anything throughout this pandemic, some of the guidance has been disregarded from folks in the community with their opinions or feelings about that. Other folks were very pleased that we instated the mask requirement, said it made them feel safer, that they were glad to see it, and that they hoped that people would comply and not give us too much trouble. So we did get some support on social media for that. So that's always encouraging.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to just give a comment, just like the mask requirement, the addition of this, the onboard count. And, we're having this conversation about the barriers. I think once they're put in, I think it'd be very helpful. I mean, I think it was important to say is like, not everybody is doing this stuff for both the riders and our operators.
Right.
I just think it's important that we're showing that level of leadership and doing our part, to fight this pandemic.
Absolutely. And, in addition to being able to join the community's fight against it, the foundation of many of our decisions is, how do we still provide service to the community and the folks who depend on it and need us and have no other way, while also balancing the ability to keep our operators safe.
Yeah.
Because if our workforce starts dropping, that obviously greatly impacts our ability to provide that service to the community. So I feel like we have been very fortunate throughout this in terms of our workforce and our ability to keep those folks healthy. We've been very fortunate in our the response of our workforce and a lot of teamwork. It has been a challenge. Operators comprise the greatest number or the largest percent of our workforce, and I feel like some days we bombard them with information, and I know that is hard when they also have a bus full of people and a road full of detours that they have to navigate, and they have done an excellent job, and just very proud of them and their commitment to serving the community, because they're on the front lines, not me. If we do not have any questions from any board members about anything in the performance report, I would be happy to turn it over to Ms. Falconberry to present our financials.
I have a quick question, and you didn't cover it, Jill, but it was in the packet on the number of open positions that we have.
Yes.
And I was just curious, is that affecting our operations at all?
We have not been impacted in our ability to provide service right now. So we are holding steady. We are currently recruiting for a class of operators. We have had a number of folks who have retired in recent months that were known retirements that were coming in the future, but perhaps maybe just took place a little sooner than expected. So we've had a little bit of that happen. We have had a little bit of people, that have gone, taking time off or whatever to care for a family member, or if they've needed to take care of their own health in some way. We've been fortunate that hasn't impacted our ability to meet service, so we're good right now. But we are looking to hire some additional operators so that we can maintain that level of service.
And is overtime at all?
I know your question was about overtime, but I didn't hear all of it. There was a lot of feedback.
Oh, just
No,
curious.
I don't think there's any impact to overtime. This was sort of a normal cycle for hiring drivers, a new class. We're also looking at hiring some part-time customer service reps in order to meet the mandate to do daily health and temperature checks. So no real operational difference, just sort of getting ahead of where we wanted to be with hiring in a new class.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
So, Nikki, Ms. Falconberry, please.
Hey, good morning, everyone. We'll review the financials for the month of July. This obviously is the first month of the fiscal year. Our operating cash is at a good point at the end of the month. We have a higher cash balance at this point than we did this time last year, and that's due to grant funds timing. So that's just something that's the timing's always different. So it's not anything out of the ordinary. We do have well, sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. We do have some accounts receivable there that would show what was at the end of the fiscal year, what grant funds that we had to come in. Those grant funds have been received in the month of August. We did draw down our first draw of the CARES grant. As Carrie mentioned earlier, that was for operating expenses. It was to pay for, we used it to pay for fuel, some of our salaries and fringe for the operations department and things like that. So that has helped at this time, because as you know, our our property tax revenue will be lower between now and November, because this is the time of the year where we don't get as many property taxes. But our balance sheet is.
Nikki, quick question. So I just want to make sure. So when we draw down on CARES Act funding, that'll show up in accounts receivable?
It's in accounts receivable right now for the month of July. When you see the financials for August, it will show up as cash.
Okay.
And Nikki, how much was the was this draw?
The draw for the CARES money was $4 million.
Thank you.
That was all operations expenses from the month of February through the month of June. Okay. Looking at the budget versus actual, the as we mentioned, the property tax and the fair revenue is zero at this point. We will receive state funding probably later in the year. We usually, the budget right now shows a zero because we usually don't receive that until January or February. It may be a little bit later this year. We just never know about that. We did receive our advertising revenue for the year, and the other revenue that you see there is fuel taxes that we get reimbursed for. Pretty much all of our expenses are good for the first month of the year. We do have some, we are over budget, as you see, in materials and supplies. That was for some filters for the facility. We have in our headquarters, we have a lot of filters to be changed, and this is the time of the year that we change them, so we've had to purchase some of those. So you'll see that over this month, but it should even out in the next couple of months. And as you see, everything else is pretty much under budget. We have picked back up on some of our paratransit expenses as some of their ridership has increased, as Jill mentioned in her KPI report. And but we are still under budget at this point, and I think we're in a good spot right now, and we will revisit it as Christian mentioned at the September Finance Committee. So does anyone have any questions?
Nikki, on the fuel, is that's because of probably a combination of things. I mean, we have some buses not running on diesel, but also running as many buses?
We actually went ahead. Our fuel right now is still low, but we budgeted pretty normal on our fuel because we didn't know what the second half of the fiscal year was going to do. And the month of July is always one of the lower months of the year, because even in a regular year when we don't have a pandemic, it's always lower because of school being out and things like that. So some of our expenses for fuel will pick back up when school starts back up. Okay, any more questions?
Thanks.
You're welcome. I'm going to turn it over to Carrie, and I'm going to switch screens now.
Excellent. If I may, I will move to the first resolution, if that's all right, Mr. Motley.
Yeah.
So the first resolution we have tonight, this morning, 2020-14, is a resolution to award a contract for electric motors. So these are the components, excuse me, of motors that have electrical alternator, starter, some other things. Really consider this a contract, a 1-year term for price quotes, if you will. We issued a similar contract about this time last year, and this is a way to lock in prices for these electric motor components of electric motors. The price sheet is attached. We received 3 proposals: Southern Coach Parts, Kirk's Automotive, and Muncie Transit Supply. The evaluation committee awarded Kirk's Automotive Incorporated, and we are asking for authorization to enter into a contract for these electric motor parts. I'm happy to take any questions on this resolution.
Any questions?
One question: where's this company based out of? And then is this, I think the transportation department calls it a DBE. Is this a disadvantaged business? My information.
If there is someone that was on the evaluation committee that can answer these, I don't believe that Kirk's is a DBE, and I am not sure where they are located. We can get that information to you if nobody is on that knows that.
It looks like it's out of Detroit, but I was just asking. Thank you. Yeah, we'll get that information.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Or a motion?
George, motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
That's Harding on the second. George on the motion to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Push your thumb. Anyone opposed? No one opposed? Thank you. Move to the next action item.
Just one follow-up. I did get the answer. They are not a disadvantaged business enterprise, and they are in fact located in Detroit. Someone was quick to respond. Thank you. The next resolution, 2020-15, is regarding our Lextran employees contributory pension plan and trust. And we have an amendment that was approved by the pension committee, and it involves a clarification on the basically early retirement age. So the amendment is to amend section 5.5B in the Lextran Employees Contributory Pension Plan and Trust document to define the earliest retirement age. And this change or this amendment came up as our third-party administrator, who also performs the actuarial services, notice that in the definition section, which is in the first part of the document, it just wasn't clear with what was said in this section 5.5. So an amendment for clarification on the early retirement age to make it more clear of what the definition of early retirement age in the definitions or first section with when it is referenced again in Article 5, Section 5.5B. And this was approved by the pension committee at the August 14th meeting. And the process for amending the pension plan is through the pension committee, then through the board to make this amendment through a resolution. So we did a similar amendment maybe, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago on a spousal benefit clarification. So no substantive change, just a clarification on that early retirement age. And then I did include in the packet a full copy of the pension plan and trust document, and then did try to have some track changes in there to show that section. But I'm not sure if it came through on the printout. But the section 5.5 is on page 37, I believe. So I'm happy to take any questions on that. Yeah, it's page 37 up at the top, section 5.05B. I'm happy to take any questions.
Carrie, I have a couple of things, and you may have corrected it since you sent out the packet, but on the resolution itself, the copy I have says amendment number 1 instead of amendment number 2.
I see. Okay, we can amend that.
The next
amend that amendment.
Yeah.
Go ahead, George.
And then a question I have on the actual amendment number 2 is it says that we're adopting the following amendment to the plan to be effective January 1st of 2014. So it's proactive to the beginning, or is this something that is supposed to be a change that's effective now?
I believe because it's not a substantive change, it does go back to the last time we amended and restated, which the third-party administrator put as January 2014. So it's because it doesn't change the benefits or impact anything. It is in fact effective January 2014.
Okay, and amendment 1 wasn't, that was done in 2016, so that's not applicable.
Once we amend the pension plan and trust document, it is incorporated in the document. So the language that changed for the spousal benefits as part of amendment number 1 is part of the pension plan and trust document now, if that's your question.
Well, you said I thought you said something like the last agreement and amendment or something like that, which is why it went back to 2014. And I was just pointing out that the last amendment was 2016. So I just want you to make sure you got it. That's all.
Sure. I took the amendment number 2 language directly from the third-party administrator, and I believe from what I could tell, in 2014, the Lextran Board of Directors restated the pension plan, and that was before my time. There was a resolution that said the pension plan was amended in 2014. So I don't know that I can explain that without having some folks that were on the board at the time and remember doing that reinstatement in 2014. But I believe the official effective date is January 2014 because that's the last time the pension as a whole was amended and restated. If we want more clarification on that, I'd be glad to have the actuary and our third-party administrator provide clarification on it.
George, this is the way I took it, because I'm on the pension committee, it's really not a change. You know, if you want early retirement, you have to meet the qualifications to draw the pension, right? That's stated elsewhere in this plan, but there was some section in the plan where there was some ambiguity, didn't state it quite clearly like that. And so this is just bringing both of those sections into clear compliance. You know what I'm saying, to make both sections clear. I didn't take this as being really a change. It's clarification.
No,
Okay.
You're exactly right, Mr. Chrisman. This is not a substantive change. It clarifies the first section where early retirement age is defined with Article 5, 5.05B, where early retirement age is mentioned again.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the resolution or motion?
I'll make that motion to pass the resolution.
Rick with a motion. Is there a second? Don't be bashful.
One second again.
Was that George or Harding? Was that Harding on the second?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Anyone opposed? Resolution moves. Thank you.
Thank you. And when we send that for signature, I'll make sure to clarify that the resolution 2020-15 in the be it resolved section says amendment number 2. We just didn't catch that on the print version.
Thank you, Karen.
The next item is a change order report. This is a no-cost change order with S&D Construction. They are the firm that we currently have under contract for our ramp program. These are the improvements we're making at bus stops. And essentially what we did is swapped out stops that we originally had planned to do with some in this first phase and push them to the second phase. So we did have a prior change order that was a dollar amount that was previously noted, but this is a no cost change order, just moving stops that we were going to make into the next phase.
Great. And Carrie, can you remind me, we built the ramp updates into the performance report or no?
Yes, the construction season was, slows a little bit during the winter months and sort of slowed even further as everybody was kind of making plans or figuring out how to do construction work safely during COVID. So we haven't been quite as prolific with our improvements as we all would like, but are continuing on with that program right now. So when we have some, good updates, we do share them.
Yeah, I was trying to make sure. I knew I'd seen some slides. And do we want to move to, is there any old business or new business?
There's no old business. The new business that I just wanted to bring up as a point of information that I shared with the board and senior team is a commitment that we're making with the American Public Transit Association for a restoration and recovery commitment with other transit agencies. And it entails just a commitment that we are doing everything we know to do to provide safe service, that we are communicating with our customers on our protocols, and that we will be, the industry is working on kind of a seal or a graphical representation that we can put on our communications to let people know, we're committed to essentially doing right by our customers and by our riders. And then, we're asking that our riders can continue their good, safe, social distancing and good safety protocols, wearing a mask, keeping their hands clean. So kind of a joint commitment between us and our riders. And then we're happy to be a part of this with our other industry partners across the country as we continue to work through and respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. So no real action other than just wanted to make the board aware of our commitment to that, and that we'll sign a letter, and you may see some additional communications on that piece about the commitment to restoration and recovery. The one piece that I will mention is APTA, the American Public Transportation Association, has done some market research on behalf of the entire industry, and they found that 87% of riders would feel better knowing, having some type of seal or emblem that showed, this transit agency is committed to doing right by, state and local orders. So that's where they sort of got behind this idea of having an emblem that can represent our commitment to safety and to our community and to our riders. So just a point of reference, but kind of a new business item.
That's helpful. And I looked at the email you sent around with the letter and the kind of the I don't know if I call them programs, initiatives, sort of things that folks are taking up. It seems like we're doing all of it. And adding that seal, sort of give folks an identifier to let them know that we're a part of this larger effort.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. And proposed agenda items.
Sure. So we have proposed agenda items. We should have another an update regarding the pension on our pension fund management services. That is, we have a pension committee, we have our pension document, we have a third-party administrator that helps us put together the amendments, and then we also have an investment fund manager that oversees our investments. So we'll have an update on that procurement. We will also have an update on the Tom Branch Trail project that came up last month, and the timing should be right to have that in September. So we'll have a presentation from Brandy Peacher, who is the project manager at Lexington Fayette Urban County Government on the Tom Branch Trail project. And then we should have a resolution for our video management system. So this is our surveillance for our property. Last month we talked about our onboard surveillance in the hard drive. So this is the video management system for our not mobile or surveillance here on property. And then based on the discussion today, looks like after, not sure of the timing because I believe the September Finance Committee is after the September board meeting. So this discussion and update on the fare collection might push to October, but I think we will be able to bring back some information on fare collection and certainly the driver barriers at that September meeting. So that's all I have for, right now for the proposed agenda items. Okay.
Any questions or additions? If not, I'd ask if there's a motion to adjourn, excuse me.
So moved.
That's Harding. Is there a second?
Second, Jamie Rogers.
Thanks, Jamie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.